This is the video journal for week 5 for EDUU 677, Autism Spectrum Disorders Programming and Strategies 2 at Brandman University. And the content for the week 5 video journal is an update on implementation procedures for the fieldwork assignment and or sort of a review, I guess I could say that. I'm doing the PMII strategy, which is the peer mediated instruction and intervention strategy. And, I guess if I could, and I'll probably need to discuss this in a week or two, but if I could mention just briefly one of the concerns that I have, which I'm not sure if I stated this in any of the previous two, either the wiki or the video journal from before. I'm not sure if I mentioned my concern about the collaborative piece and teachers being consistent in I guess making sure that the checklists are completed. So in a nutshell, that's probably the one thing that is hampering, at least for now, the procedural fidelity of this particular intervention. And in the back of my mind, I kind of figured, I keep my fingers crossed because I'm like, oh, I hope that everybody does their part. But I guess that's to be expected. And this is really the last couple of days that I will be doing the intervention. And then I'll look back and then maybe in the next video journal or wiki, I'll discuss some of these issues. But just to kind of recap, one of the things that I was focused on was a particular subcategory of the PMII, which was the student tutors, and looking at matching the two students, the target student and the peer tutor, based on schedules, and that has worked out pretty well. And so far, so good in terms of some of the behavior reductions. And I'm not certain really if the teachers are, there's something, I can't remember it from psychology, but there's a certain type of bias when you know that you're expected to have a specific answer for a question. You tend to answer in line with that. I'll have to look that up, but in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, are they just answering based on what I expect? Because when I inquired about the checklists, some teachers I email, others I call, and so there's been some inconsistency with that, whether or not they forgot, because that's typically one of those things. And again, that's to be expected, I think, because we're all busy, and if your focus as a teacher is, your lessons, your kids, making sure, you take care of what you need to for that particular class period, some things, unfortunately, take a back seat to what your strategy is for that day. The other thing is the student tracking across the 5 periods. That has been going okay. Meeting with the student tutor, she seems to be comfortable with what her expectations are for the ASD student, and making sure that she continues to partner with him, particularly in that math class, because again, as I stated before, that was, of the 5 periods, the one that is or has been historically the most problematic for him. And I think I mentioned some time ago that strict adherence to the PMII, that checklist, would be critical. And so, and I don't want to keep harping on that, but that's the one thing that I'm like, man, oh. Um, so just in reviewing that, the checklists from the students that I've collect, or I'm sorry, not the students, but the teachers um, that I've collected from, um, I have noted something from the research called procedural infidelity. So whether certain sections were not checked. And at the end of all of this, I'll go back and inquire about those specific items that were missed and the reasons for that. But so far, in terms of just student behavior and somewhat of a secondary goal of interacting with others in groups and using kind of a social modeling for how the ASD student needs to behave. I think that the selection of the peer tutor for him was probably a perfect match because I know that they have a very good rapport. She is, for lack of a better term, very helpful in making sure that he is organized in the things that he needs to do. So far, so good. And I'm saying that relatively speaking because, like I said, there were some issues with teachers filling out the checklist. And I think that in the future, there will obviously be, if I do this down the line, there will definitely be some changes to what is being done, but I'll discuss that probably in a later video journal.